apologies in advance for the sound on this video. I am in a very echoey room and again, do not have a mic, so if that's going to bother you, I'm very sorry. Can't really do much about that. If you've been watching my videos for any length of time, you probably know that my Christian faith and relationship with God is a really important aspect of my life and who I am. Several of you have asked me to address this in further detail about what it's like to be a Christian in law school, and others of you have criticized me every time I mention God in my videos. So just heads up, this video is all about that, in case you missed the title. I'm deferring to the fact that we literally just celebrated the day that Jesus was born. I know it wasn't really in December, don't at me. So I figured if there's any time to talk about this, it's got to be the day after Christmas. All my life, I've had this vague impression of the secular nature of the legal field. A lot of it is money driven, and attorneys in criminal law especially can be dealing with the most evil members of society in a faulty and broken system based on human imperfection. I've never felt like Christians shouldn't be in the legal field, though. Believers are called to go to all ends of the earth to spread God's message of salvation through his unconditional love for people. I think most Christians would include industries and careers as parts of the world just as much as the geographical aspects of evangelism. And for anyone watching who is not a Christian, evangelism might mean the explicit sharing of the Bible and what it says from one person to another, but it also, and in my opinion, even mostly, means living a life that is a reflection of God's plan and purpose for us. Law was always the thing that I felt just this sense of confidence about, that I knew it was at least part of God's plan for me. And not knowing your direction in life is okay too, but that's just not my story. Believing that I was going to be going into law, I wanted to prepare myself mentally as well as spiritually as best I could. That's why I went to a Christian college. I wanted to build my Christian worldview that the foundation had been laid for by family, friends, churches, and schools my whole life, so that I would be able to practice connecting that Christian worldview in a really rigorous academic or even secular setting. Even though Wheaton College, the college I attended, was populated mostly by Christians, or at least people who respected Christian values, the diversity of opinions and worldviews there really helped me sharpen my own views and beliefs and how they could interact in at least mostly well-intentioned adverse situations. By the time I graduated, I felt as ready as I could be to engage with a more hostile group of very smart people on issues that mean a lot to me, but perhaps for different reasons than they mean a lot to others. I don't want it to sound like law schools in America are persecutory, especially of Christians. Especially being in law school, I recognize the incredible freedoms that I enjoy as someone who lives in the United States that often aren't afforded to people in the rest of the world. But compared to the communities I was a part of prior to law school, my views and reasoning, even in their subtlest presentation, is often taken as offensive by many of my classmates. For example, I don't identify either as Republican or Democrat. I think both sides are right about some things and very wrong about others. During the recent election, I posted on Facebook a general, nonpartisan reminder to show empathy for those that we disagree with. That understanding perspectives different than our own is the first step towards winning anyone over to the changes we want to make. I wrote this in response to people on both sides of the aisle that I know who were pretty mean-spirited and fostering fights instead of healthy debate and conversation on online and in-person forums. And I'm not naive. I know posting on Facebook during an election is not going to change the world or necessarily be taken as well as it might otherwise, but I was still truly shocked by the response that I got from a lot of my law school classmates who responded to this post in pure anger. Anger that I dare to encourage them to love other people even if they hated their ideas. This wasn't an isolated incident, but I don't really want to list out everything that's happened because it would just be depressing. I have a pretty thick skin and a lot of confidence in what I believe, so I'm okay, and I'm not telling this story to garner sympathy. But if you are a Christian who is considering going to law school, I want to give you a realistic portrait based on my own experiences of what it might be like when you stand up for what you believe in. This is a very real and, from what I've seen, regular aspect of this profession. I happen to go to school in a pretty liberal area, and so those ideas tend to be the ones controlling my classrooms. But I would not be surprised at all if these similar attitudes of anger and hate towards the messaging of Christ is still apparent in even conservative schools, even if more people there would label themselves Christians. And I know, because I went to a lot of conservative schools, the legal system is not really built with the message of Christ in mind. One reason that I would encourage any Christians who are pursuing or currently in law school to get plugged into local Christian communities, both in and outside of your school. At WashU, we have an organization called the Carver Project, which hosts speakers, runs a mentoring program, and book club meetings for Christians to gather at and enjoy one another's company. There's also a recent graduate who lives in the area and runs a Bible study with his wife from their local church that's open to anyone who wants to come, but especially the law students. And pre-pandemic, I was enjoying attending a local church and one of its small groups on a weekly basis as well. Those groups of people have been incredibly strengthening and encouraging to me, not only when I felt like my beliefs were being challenged, but also when I was just struggling under the general workload and stress of law school. It's true that there are a few law schools who hold themselves out as specifically Christian, but I didn't really consider any of them for two reasons. First, honestly, they're not really regarded in the profession as very good schools. And while I'm not looking to make partner in New York City in 10 years, I do still want to be taken seriously as an applicant wherever I apply throughout the country, and going to a top 20 law school allows me to do that. Second, knowing that the legal profession is not one that skews towards my values of love and empathy, mercy, and even sometimes justice, I wanted to ease myself into that environment throughout my time in law school instead of just jumping right into it from 2 decades in Christian schools. Maybe these reasons don't apply to you for whatever reason, but Christian law school just didn't seem like a realistic option for my personal and career goals. The closest I came to that was my consideration of attending Notre Dame, which is a traditionally Catholic school and still promotes those values regularly. But ultimately the money just didn't work out, so I don't think it's what God had for me anyway. The last aspect I wanted to address on this topic of being a Christian in law school is the separation of church and government. As someone who very much considers themselves as part of the church and wants to work in government, I have had a really hard time with this foundational element of our democracy. Not because I don't think it should be there. I don't think that the church should rule the country. That has not worked out well in history. And I do think that the government should, for the most part, stay out of regulating how churches of any religion operate. But I do feel pressure in law school to separate my religious beliefs from my political ones. At the end of the day, I just don't find that an honest way to live my life. Thankfully, I'm not a legislator because I would have a really hard time voting on hot button issues where my personal convictions about what people should do conflict with my beliefs about what I think God, through free will, has given us the power to choose to do. Taking family law in particular this last semester was really challenging on this front because, for example, I'm super glad that women have lots of legal rights today that they didn't have 100 years ago. But with the creation and recognition of these rights also came skyrocketing rates of divorce, as women and men could leave marriage for whatever reason they wanted and not just on fault grounds. I don't believe in divorce for most situations. I don't really have a solid conclusion on this tension, and I doubt I ever will, but it is one thing to know that you're probably going to struggle with as a Christian in law school. Finally, wrapping up after a video with many technical difficulties and a lot to say, here are my takeaways. If you are a Christian feeling called to the legal field, go for it. It needs you, but be prepared for opposition to your beliefs, which, if you stand by them, might have pretty negative consequences for you and your career. Find Christian communities to invest in and lean on during your studies. The church is not a negligible element of our faith. And be prepared to wrestle with the unique challenges the law presents to you, trusting the discernment of the Holy Spirit to counsel you as you serve as counsel for others. I hope you all had a very Merry Christmas and are looking forward to what I hope will be a much better new year. Until 2021, God bless.